Hi all, welcome to the lecture video on Module 6, Principles of Management, and today we will be dealing with the topics Basic Control Process, Control as a Feedback System, Feed-Forward Control, Requirements for Effective Control, Control Techniques, Overall Controls and Preventive Controls, and Global Controlling. And these will be the last part of this module. So first we will see controlling. So what is actually controlling? Controlling is function of management which helps to check errors in order to take corrective actions, and this will try to minimize deviations from standards and ensure that the stated goals of the organization are achieved. And it comprises of three components: setting standards, measuring actual performance, and taking corrective actions. And now we can see some of the characteristics of control. Control is a managerial process. As you know, this is a function of management. And control is forward looking. Forward looking means it is trying to check whether the objectives of the organization are achieved or not. There is a proper control over the process inputs and outputs. Control exists at each level of the organization, that is in the top level, middle level, and lower level. There should be a control over the subordinates and even the superiors. Control is a continuous process, and control is closely linked with planning. So planning, you all know, this is the first function of management. In planning, they are trying to create plans for establishing the objectives. And control is also trying to check whether the objectives are achieved or not. So that is why it is closely linked with planning. Some of the basic control processes are establishing standards, measurement of performance, correction of deviations. So what is actually establishing standards? This is actually managers defining goals in specific, precise and operational terms, and that is including standards of performance. And measurement of performance means actual performance in the organization. Through it is measuring the actual performance through reports. It may be quantitatively or qualitatively. And correction of deviations, the correction of deviations means if the performance is not met, it is trying to correct, it is trying to minimize the errors. That's it. Here we can see establishing standards, that is strategic plans. Managers define goals in specific and precise operational terms, and they are creating the standards of performance to compare with the organization activities. So actual performance means formal reports are prepared both quantitatively and qualitatively, and the managers review regularly. The measurements should be related to the standards set in the first step of the control, and compare performance with the standards. So actual activities to perform standards, these are compared. The actual activities and the performance standards are compared together. And in the take corrective actions and reinforcement of success. Taking corrective actions means when deviations are found, corrective actions should be taken and implemented. And next is feedback and feed forward control system. What is feedback and what is feed forward? Feedback refers to the process of adjusting future actions on the basis of information about past performance. So actually, after the output is obtained only, it is being checked with the standards. That is in feedback. And what is the meaning of feed forward? It is done in a system for preventing problems. So here the inputs are monitored regularly. So before problems occur, they are trying to monitor the input itself, or they are trying to monitor the processes. So it is actually proactive. We can see in feedback, control refers to the process of adjusting future actions on the basis of information about past. And in feedback, control is a process that managers use to evaluate how effectively they meet the stated goals at the end of a production process. It evaluates the team progress by comparing the output the team was planning on producing to what was actually produced. Here you can see a control as a feedback system. So first is desired performance. Desired performance means the standards. Actual performance means the performance which was actually performed by in the organization. Measurement of actual performance, they are measuring, that is the managers will be measuring quantitatively and qualitatively, then comparing if they are trying to check whether there are any errors, identification of deviations, what caused this deviation, the cause they are finding out, an analysis of causes, then the program of corrective action. So what methodology they can implement to correct these deviations or these errors, then the implementation of corrections. Then feed forward control, here actually this is, as we told before, this is proactive, that is preventing problems before they occur by monitoring performance inputs and reacting to maintain an identified level. This is now commonly used, increasingly it is increasingly effective in an organization. Effective management, here the inputs are monitored regularly, and also the manager's need for effective controller system will inform them the potential problems, and they are given the time for corrections in the input stage itself before the problems occur. This is a figure for feed forward control. Here you can see in the input step itself there is a controller, and the control parameters are checked and the processes are done, and we'll get the output, desired output. Next, we can see the requirements of feed forward control. So first requirement is that make a thorough and careful analysis of the planning and control system and identify more improvement in the input variables. So they are checking the input parameters, if that parameters need to be changed for getting that for getting the standard output. And they are trying to create a model of the system and keep the model up to date. Collect data on input variables regularly and put them into the system. So these variables are collected regularly and they are trying to check whether the desired output is obtained or not. Regularly access variations of actual input data from plan for inputs and evaluate the impact on the expected end result and take action. This is a figure for feed forward versus feedback system. Both are explained here. You can see in the red dotted lines that is information, and the blue dotted line shows the corrective action. Here you can see, first I will explain the feed forward. Input, process, output. So in the input stage itself, red dotted arrow showing feed forward, and corrective actions are done there itself. In the input stage itself, the corrective actions are done and the processes are, and also in the process stage also, the dotted line from the feed forward is going to the process also. That means in the process stage also the feed forward control is done, and finally we are reaching on to the output. That means the output which we obtain will be matching with the standards. So next we will see the feedback system, that is input, process, output, and again after the output is obtained, the feedback is checked with the desired values of output standards. It is checked if there is any deviations, they are going to the input, they are going to the process, and they are even going to the outputs. So these things are again checked. So only after reaching the output, only they are going to check with the desired outputs. I hope you understood. Next, we can see some of the characteristics of effective control system. So some of the characteristics are accuracy, timeliness, flexibility, acceptability, integration, economic feasibility, strategic placement, and corrective action. So what is actually accuracy? Accuracy, from the word itself, accurate information is essential for effective managerial decisions. So the data and information should be accurate. Inaccurate controls would divert management efforts. And timeliness means there should be a time management. That means some information should be reached to the manager, or if there is an immediate action is required, so this should reach the manager in a timely manner. Flexibility means it should be adaptable. The environment should be dynamic in nature. And acceptability means who the controls which we are implementing, whoever who are affected by it should be able to understand them and accept them. They should understand the controls which we are introducing, and they should accept it. If they are not understanding, it will create unnecessary mistakes. And what is integration? Integration means It is trying to the controls are consistent with corporate values and culture. That is actually they are going to integrate with the corporate values, the cultural values and all, and they are going to work in harmony with organizational policies in order to reduce the errors, and also it will be easier to enforce. Economic feasibility. Economic means money. So for the control system, a huge amount of money should be invested. So this cost should be reduced. This operation cost should be balanced against benefits. And strategic placement means there should be an effective control and emphasize at certain critical and strategic control points. In certain areas, it should be strategically controlled, or else it will create much loss. It cannot be tolerated. And corrective action means the system should be programmed to suggest solutions to correct deviations. So if there is any deviation happens, the system should automatically, it is programmed to suggest solutions. So these are some of the categories and which is explained here. Accuracy, timelines and all. Accuracy means accurate data and information, and timeliness means immediate attention should be there. Flexibility means the economic environment should be highly dynamic in nature. As you all know, technology is changing very fast, so it should be adaptable with the changing environment. Acceptability means whoever are affected by the controls which we have implemented, it should be understood, and if the control system is difficult to understand, it can cause mistakes and frustration may resonate by the workers. Integration, I already explained that consistent controls with corporate values and culture in order to work with harmony with the organization policies. So this is important part. The controls become an integrated part of the organizational environment if integration is maintained. Economic feasibility means there should be cost of control should be balanced against its benefits. The system must be economically feasible. Strategic placement, effective control should be placed and emphasized at such critical and strategic control points where failures cannot be tolerated, and also cost of failure are greatest. Corrective action means it is programmed to suggest solutions to correct deviation. For example, here you can see they are showing an example. A computer keeping a record of inventories can be programmed to establish if then guidelines. For example, if inventory of a particular item drops below 5% of maximum inventory at hand, then the computer will signal for replenishment for such items. So if the items are going below 5%, the computer will automatically signals that replenishment of items are required. That's correct. Next, we can see the types of organization controls, which is mainly of three types: feed forward, concurrent, and feedback. Already we have discussed feed forward and feedback. Now we are going to discuss on concurrent. So just revising, control is actually the fourth step of management process, and they are trying to determine the goals, organization goals, and they are comparing with the data, and corrective actions are done if needed. Feed forward means it is trying to preventing problems before they occur, and is proactive in nature. Concurrent control means it is a real time, it is a quality control standards, and it is ongoing process. That means whenever something happens, the beginning stage itself, the checking is done. So concurrent controls begin with standards, and all employees' activity is measured against the standard. That means quality is maintained here. This means that products and services can be checked as they are being produced or performed to be sure that the highest quality product or service being produced or provided. So consistently it is being done, or it is an ongoing process. In a real time they are checking. And the feedback control system is used to evaluate how effectively the teams meet the stated goals by comparing the output with the standards. Next, we are moving on with the topic control techniques. So mainly there can be of two types of control techniques: traditional and modern. Traditional and modern techniques. And in traditional techniques have been used by the companies for a long time, and these include personal observation, statistical reports, break-even analysis, and budgetary control. So what is actually personal observation? Personal observation means by just looking on to the employee's performance, directly observing the employee's performance. This is actually a first hand information, whether they are doing in a definite manner. Statistical reports means report in the form of graphs, in the form of statistics. They are making report analysis, result analysis they are doing in the form of graphs and charts. Break-even analysis, this is actually a, it's actually a technique that is showing the relationship between sale, volume and profit. And budgetary control means using the preparation of budgets, and these budgetary standards are compared with the actual performance. Personal observations is actually first-hand information, and which enables the manager to collect information. So here what happens is that there will be a psychological pressure on the employee to perform in such a manner so as to achieve well their objectives, and they know that they are being observed personally, and it's also a time consuming process. Statistical reports means overall analysis of reports and data in the organization is prepared in the form of averages, percentage ratios, correlation, etc. So, and it includes charts, graphs, tables, and the managers will be able to understand it easily, and they allow to compare with the previous or standard performance. Break-even analysis is a technique used by managers to study the relationship between cost, volume, and profits. It determines the overall picture of probable profit and losses at different levels. So it's actually break-even point you should study. Break-even point is that there is no profit, no loss. This is called break-even point, and there is a formula for break-even point, that is fixed cost divided by selling price per unit minus variable cost per unit. And budgetary control is preparation of budgets, and they are budgets are prepared periodically, and mm, in this technique all operations which are necessary to be performed are executed so as to perform and plan in advance in the form of budgets, and the actual results are compared with the budgetary standards. So it's a quantitative statement prepared for a definite future period of time for the purpose of obtaining a given objective. And here you can see some of the budget. Sales budget. Sales budget is that a statement of what an organization expects to sell in terms of quantity as well as value. Production budget. Here it plans to produce in the budgeted period. Organization plans to produce what all products need to be produced. That is production budget. Material budget, cost of raw materials, estimated quantity and all. Cash budget, anticipated cash inflows and outflows for the budgeted period. Capital budget means the estimated spending on long-term assets like new factory or major equipment. Research and development budget means estimated spending for the development of or refinement of products and processes. Next, see some of the modern techniques. This is of recent origin and comparatively new in management literature. So return on investment, ratio analysis, responsibility accounting, management audit, PERT and CPM. So return on investment. Investment means the capital amount we are investing on certain project, and return means measuring whether the invested capital has been effectively used or for generating a reasonable amount in return, whether the invested amount is being returned or not. And how it is measured? It is measured by net income before or after tax, used for making comparison. Total investment includes both working as well as fixed capital investment in the business. Ratio analysis. It's actually a quantitative method of gaining insight into a company's liquidity, operational efficiency. This is actually comparing the company's liquidity and efficiency with other companies, or in the same in different departments. Ratio analysis can be compared in different sectors, in different industry, within the same industry, or in comparison. For the comparison only, for the performance comparison only, ratio analysis are used. And different types of ratios used are liquidity ratios, solvency ratios, profitability ratios and turnover ratio. And next is responsibility accounting. Here, the system of accounting in which some sections are being responsibly centered. For example, some of the types of cost center, revenue center, profit center, investment center. Here they are trying to check the head of the center is responsible for achieving the targets set for his center. So this is actually related with the accounting. Some responsibility centers should be created. For each center, there should be some responsibility heads. In the cost center, there should be a responsible head, revenue center, similarly, profit and investment center. Next is management audit. As you all know, there should be an audit to add audit in order to check the overall performance of the management of an organization. The purpose is mainly done to review the efficiency and effectiveness. And last one is PERT and CPM. So PERT and CPM are actually the techniques used for scheduling the projects and in a timely and most most profitable resource allocation activities are done here. That means the technique here used is the projects which should be done in a scheduled manner, and the resources used should be properly allocated. For that only we are using PERT and CPM. PERT means programmed evaluation review technique, and CPM is critical path method. They are used in planning and controlling. This is actually scheduling and implementing time-bound projects. So these techniques are interrelated and deal with such factors as time scheduling and resource allocation for these activities. Let's see some of the advantages or benefits of controlling. Control provides the basis for future action in the organization, and control will reduce the chance of mistakes in the future. Control facilitates decision making in the organization. So this is closely related with the planning. This requires a right decision to what type of follow-up action is to be done. An effective system of control facilitates decentralization of authority only when correct measures are taken. So decentralization means what? The power given from the power given to the bottom. To the subordinates, the power is given. So there also the control should be done effectively. Control and planning go hand in hand in the organization. Control is the only means to ensure that the plans are being implemented in real sense. And the existence of a control system has a positive impact on the behavior of employees in the organization. They are cautious when performing the duties in the organization, and they know that their supervisors in the organization are observing them. So this creates a positive impact on the employees' behavior. That means they are being checked regularly. And also controlling helps in coordination of activities, and there will be unity of direction. And some of the limitations are an organization cannot control the external factors such as government policy, technological changes, and all the organization cannot control. And control is an expensive process because sufficient attention has to be made to observe the performance of subordinates in the organization, and this requires an expenditure of a lot of time and effort. Control system loses its effectiveness in the organization when standards of performance cannot be defined in quantitative terms. For example, that means if the standards are not clear to the subordinates, quantitatively means it will be clear, but qualitatively it may not be clear. For example, it is very difficult to measure the human behavior and employee moral in the organization. See, that means it's quality. That means that is not clearly defined. It is difficult to define. The effectiveness of control mainly depends on the acceptance of subordinates in organization. So if the subordinates accept the control system only, it will be effective. If they are going to resist the control, so it will reduce, that means they are trying for freedom. They'll curtail their freedom while in duty. So it loses its significance, and it is not possible to fix accountability of the subordinates. So that will create a problem in the organization. Next topic is overall controls and preventive controls. So overall control means the overall performance in the organization should be controlled. And preventive control means preventive controls, that means the subordinates should be selected, have a quality in them. They should be able to control themselves. They should be able to, they should have a clear idea about the objectives that is that need to be met. That is preventive control. Control of overall performance. Control devices have been developed for measuring the overall performance of an organization. This is overall planning must apply to the enterprise. Overall control should be there to analyze the achievements of organizational goals. So overall control should be there in the organization. Decentralization of authority creates semi-independent units. So decentralization means the power given to the subordinates or to the bottom level. So what will happen is that there will be semi-independent units, and these semi-independent units should have a control, and it permits the measurement of an integrated area. And here we can see many overall controls in the business are in the financial sector. As you all know, finance is a binding force in business. So it accurately indicates the total expense for resource in reaching the goals. A manager must have a way of knowing what goal achievement has cost in terms of resources. So goal achievement, what cost is being made for the resources in order to achieve the goal, that a manager should be knowing. It has to be tailored to the specific needs of the enterprise or position. A deviation from plan cost may lead a manager to find the causes in poor planning and inadequate training of employees or other non-financial factors. So a deviation from plan cost may lead a manager to find the causes in poor planning. So manager should be able to find the causes. What are the causes for this poor planning? So that and all are done in the financial sector. Here you can see in the finance sector are profit and loss control through return on investment. Profit and loss control means profit and loss statements show all revenues and expenses. Profits are a definite standard against which to measure success, and it's a summary of results of business operation. And control through return on investment means return on investment is a rate of return that a company or a division can earn on capital allocated. It shows relative success of an organization. It recognizes a fundamental fact that capital is a critical factor in any enterprise. So these two comes under the financial sector. So these two comes under the overall controls. Then the management audit and accounting, that is in all organizations you can see the management auditing is done for in order to check the efficiency of the performance of management functions. And here you can see the bureaucratic and plan control. What is actually bureaucratic? Bureaucratic means use of formal authority, that is rules, policies, reward system to influence employee behavior and access performance. They are actually ruling, they are actually having a formal authority over the employees for their performance. And clan control means it is a use of informal authority. Here it is based on norms, shared values, expected behavior and other cultural variables of the employees. Here actually high level management is seen as mentors rather than boss. So that is the difference between bureaucratic and clan control. And preventive control. So what is actually preventive? The principle of preventive control states that higher the quality of managers and the subordinates, the less will be the need for direct controls. It is trying to reduce the direct control over employees. And means if the employees are has got the high quality in them, so this will reduce the burden in the managers. So some of the assumptions are qualified managers make a minimum errors, and qualified performance can be measured in the form of concepts, principles and techniques are useful diagnostic standards in measuring the managerial performance. The application of management fundamentals can be evaluated. So they are trying to implement, or they are trying to recruit the quality subordinates who are efficient in doing things. So this will reduce the direct control. Advantages are greater accuracy is achieved in assigning personal responsibility. Preventive control hasten corrective action, make it more effective. Preventive control lightens managerial burden. Managerial burden is reduced. Subordinate managers know what is expected of them, understand the nature of managing, and feel a close relationship between performance and measurement. So they are actually, there is a close relationship between the performance and measurement. So the errors will be reduced. And last topic of this module is global controlling and global challenges. So what is actually global controlling? Global controlling is actually related with workforce diversity. You know, people from different culture, different customs, different backgrounds are coming together and working. So in this multicultural diverse organization, the leaders must be able to manage them. He should be able to take the challenges, handle the challenges while working with the different cultures of people. Here you can see the workplace in the present day context is increasingly multicultural and diverse. So different backgrounds, and many products and services are produced for export. Even in addition, organizations are outsourcing their work to countries having low labor costs to stay competitive. So they are even outsourcing labors. So as opportunity for global expansion increases, the workplace will have more diversity. So organizations are now hiring professionals with different backgrounds and cultures and motivation. And it is therefore necessary for organizations to expand the capacity for people to handle the challenges of working with other cultures if they are to participate successfully. So the leaders must be adaptive and flexible to manage this diverse workforce. The leader must understand their qualities, their nature, their customs and all. Leaders must understand and he should be adaptable and flexible to manage this workforce. And understanding different cultures, according to Richard D. Lewis, the different nations and cultures can be put into three groups: linear active, multi-active and reactive. Linear active means in this culture people focus on a scheduled timeline and like to do one thing at a time. The people in this culture are task oriented planners, so they are actually linear. They focus on scheduled time only, one thing at a time they can handle. They are mainly on task oriented. And multi-active means people belonging to this culture are more focused on interactions and dialogues. They are more relationship oriented and they give priority to discussions, dialogues. They help to build relationship, and in this relationship that determines what comes out of work. That is multi-active. And reactive means people belong to this type of culture introverted. Introverted means they are like having a passive attitude. They will have a passive voice. They are actually good listeners. They respect others. They concentrate on what people have to say without interruption. Even if they interrupt also, this is rarely done. People in this culture usually express their ideas in a passive voice. And here the leaders in global controlling, the leaders are trying to understand the world views, communication styles, ethics and etiquette of the people. What is actually etiquette? Etiquette refers to guidelines which control the way a responsible individual should behave in the society. How a responsible individual behave in a society. These and all the leaders um are actually discussing. So these are the guidelines the leaders are actually putting on to the people, that is etiquette and ethics. So I hope you understood the global controlling. With this we finished our last module. Thank you for listening. Thank you.